Hello again, and welcome back. So, we've been through 2 lessons already, and in the first lesson we learned the 4 basics of calligraphy, the 4 basic strokes. Then I showed you how to do 3 single stroke letters. And in the second lesson we learned how to do the set up the 2 stroke letter, and then we put together some words. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do 3 stroke letters. We're going to do all the letters that have the 3 strokes, and then we're going to put some words together again. And then I'll just do a quick recap before we get started on that. So if you're ready, let's go ahead with lesson 3. Alright, so here we are in lesson 3, and we've been through the first 2 lessons, which I showed you the different strokes, and let's go ahead and recap on those. And first of all, what I showed you was the basic 4 strokes that most all calligraphy uses. Now there are some calligraphy lettering styles that don't use the 4 strokes. I won't go into those here. But we did the stroke 1, stroke 2, and 3, and then we did the baseline and descender line stroke. And then I showed you the letter G, which uses all 4 strokes to be created. Then I showed you the 3 letters that combine the single stroke, which is the I, J, and L. And then we went through the different types of lines that you'll be using in calligraphy, which is the ascender line, the mid, base line, and descender. Then I wrote the word calligraphy and signed my name. And then we moved on to lesson 2. So just to recap lesson 2, we went through all the 2 stroke letters, and I gave you different variations on those, and I gave you some words to practice with, and hopefully you practice those enough that you have got those 2 stroke letters down. And some of you may even do it better than I do. I don't know. Then I signed off with my logo again. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do the 3 stroke letter. And again, we're going to use our underboard. Put it out here. We're going to use our underboard so that it doesn't bleed through. And again, that's 7.5 by 11. And we're going to keep that nice and straight. And so we're going to go ahead and get started on these letters. And basically, these are actually the first letters of the alphabet, pretty much. So we're going to start out with the letter A, which is the first 3-stroke letter we're going to look at. So as you saw the letter A, we're going to use that 1, 2, and 3. So there's our 3 strokes on that. The letter B is basically the same, except it's doing the ascender 1, 2, and 3. So the next letter we're going to look at is the letter D. So we're going to do 1, 2, and 3. Just kind of curve that up a little bit. So the letter A and D are pretty much similar. It's just extended up there. So the next letter we're going to look at is the letter E. Now E is one of the most common letters we're going to use along with the A, since they're both vowels. We're going to be using E a lot. So sometimes you can add flourishes to the E, and it can become a 4-stroke letter if you need it to be. So we're going to look at the letter E right now. So letter E is going to go 1, 2, 3. Actually made that a little too high. 1, 2, 3. And again, you can add that little flourish at the end if you need to. So our next letter is going to be the letter K, and the letter K is actually kind of a special letter because we can do it 2 ways. We can do the straight down, and we can go up, and come down, and just curve it like that, or we can do it this way. And this is the one I prefer. We can do 1, 2, so 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so that's the letter K. The next letter is the letter M. It's using 3 single strokes to be joined. It's a combination of the three single strokes. So again, we're going to do the letter M, and we're going to add a little flourish to it at the top here. 2, 3, and there's your letter M, which is our next 3-stroke letter. So the next letter we're going to look at is the letter P. So it's basically just the reverse of that. It's going to come down, and then we're going to go across and down, and then pull it across. Now there's another way you can do the letter P, and I'll show you what that is right here. So I'm going to come down and come up just a little bit like that, and then pull it in. So you can see the difference between the 2 there, with the up and down stroke and the across stroke. The next letter we look at is the letter S. Now, the letter S is actually, even though it's still a 3-stroke, it may feel like a 4-stroke letter, but it is in actual fact a 3-stroke letter. And we're going to start up here just below the midline. And we're going to come down, I'm going to pull it down just a little bit like this. I'm going to curve it, and then 2 and 3. So there's our letter S. Next letter is the letter Z, and this is the last one on this list. And the letter Z, or Z if you're in a European country, can be a 4-stroke letter, but I'll show you that later on. We're actually going to keep it as a 4-stroke and a 3-stroke letter. So as a 3-stroke letter, we're going to look at it, and it looks something like this. And 3. And there you go. So you got 1, 2, and 3. So those are our 3-stroke letters. All right. So now we've got our 3-stroke letters. Let's go ahead and look at some words we can use. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine some of the single stroke, the 2-stroke, and the 3-stroke together in some of these words, but you can kind of get those as we do them. So the first one I'm going to look at is the word jail, which is going to use a single stroke and a 3-stroke. And the word jail is, we're going to look at it like this. So we do the J, down, letter A, letter I, and the letter L. Okay, so the word jail is using a single stroke and 2-stroke. So the word ball is actually going to use the 2 of the letters up here. We're going to do the word ball, and I'm going to come down, and don't forget your spacing a little bit on this so they kind of look a little bit more even. So the word ball. Next we're going to look at is word deep, and we're actually using all 3-stroke letters on this one. I'm going to do a double E because I want to give you an idea of what that looks like. So we're going to do the word deep. And there, our letter E. And our letter P. And we're going to use the up and down stroke here on this one because I think it looks a little bit nicer. So there's the word deep. And we're using all 3 strokes on that one. So the next word we're going to look at is the word back. And we're going to kind of drop down here a little bit so we can kind of have a little bit more space. So the word back. And we're going to do 1, 2, and 3. And again, we're going to use that little 2-stroke letter. And this is my K that I like. So that's the word back. So you see we use the 2 3-strokes, well, 3 3-strokes and a dual stroke. So the next word we're going to look at is the word pass. Now the reason I want to do pass is I want to show you what the double S looks like and how they might be spaced a little bit. So we're going to do the word pass and come down. And I'm going to do the up again because I like that one better. And the letter A, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, if you notice too that when on the stroke of the A, that I actually joined the S, the 3rd stroke to the letter A, that kind of gives it a little bit more cleaner look too. So we can, anytime you do a double letter, it works well that way. And I have one more coming up that I'm going to show you. So the next one we're going to look at is the word zebra or zebra, depending on where you live. So we're going to do the Z or the Z. And C, and I'm going to B. I'm going to come up a little bit on that one. And the letter R. And don't forget to come up on that. So there's the word zebra. And that's going to give you some inclination of how these strokes go together in words. And I think the more you do this, the better you become at it. So the next word we're going to look at is this next double letter or double letter word, which is the word moose. And the reason I'm using moose is because I want to show you how the O's look and how we might space those. So we're going to come back down here and we're going to do our M, which is our 3-stroke letter. Okay. And the word moose. There we go. And that's the word moose. So the last word we're going to do is the word beam. Now the reason I want to do the word beam is because even though it still contains all 3 stroke letters, I want to show you pretty much a little bit better spacing on this one. Because it's using a lot of wide letters, we want to make sure that we don't stretch them out too far or too thin. So let's go ahead and do the word beam. Here's our second one. And there's the word beam. And you notice that I didn't do too many flourishes on that, but that's going to give you an idea. Okay, and there's our words for to practice for the next lesson. And this is I'm going to go ahead and sign off. And until next time, happy lettering.